What's happening, dogs? Mr. Allen here. We're about to solve this inequality by graphing. Now, if I'm dealing with a polynomial inequality, which I am right here, I'm going to need some x-intercepts to graph it and then get our solution. But I've got myself a trinomial here with a degree of 4. So I can't use factor by grouping, which would be with 4 terms. I got to do some other kind of factoring. Now, it does have a similar resemblance to a quadratic, right, trinomial, where I could just see what multiplies to 25 and adds to negative 26. We can actually use the exact same thing right here. So negative 1 and negative 25 would multiply to 25 and add to negative 26. But instead of x as my first part of each factor, I'm going to have x squared as my first part of each factor. Right? My first term for each factor is going to be x squared, so that it multiplies to x to the 4th. Then I will have negative 1 and negative 25, and this is still less than or equal to 0. You can also use what's called u substitution here and set x squared equal to u, sub that in. But I think most of us can probably grasp this, from here to here and save a little bit of time, a little bit of writing by doing that. All right, can I continue? Yes, I can, and I love it because I get to continue factoring, which is like my favorite thing in the world, man. I got a difference of 2 squares and another difference of 2 squares. So I'm going to have x minus 1, x plus 1. I'm going to have x minus 5 and x plus 5, you guessed it, less than or equal to 0. Woo! We got ourselves 4 factors here, which means we're going to have 4 zeros. All right, let's draw up a graph. Now I can plot all my zeros. Here I'm going to get positive 1. Here I'm going to get negative 1. Here I'm going to get positive 5. And over here I will get negative 5. Beautiful. Wonderful. Now a quartic function, which is what we're dealing with here, remember it has a W kind of shape to it. And since we got like the same factors on either side, it looks like we're going to have some symmetry going on here. And I will draw it as such. I'm also going to have a y-intercept of positive 25. Now it doesn't really matter for this particular thing, but hey, just a reminder, right? 0, 25, that's my y-intercept. All right, let's see if we can graph this thing here. It looks like I'm going to have to kind of, there we go. Woo! Beautiful. Beautiful W shape. Now, we're not done. I mean, I know it seems like I've had so much fun right now that I must be done. But no, the fun's not over, children. The fun is not over. I have to solve this thing. When is it less than or equal to 0? Well, that's when it's below the x-axis. So I'm talking about this section right here, as well as this section right here. Those are my 2 parts to the solution here. And I can write it in one of 2 ways. We can use inequalities, or we can do interval notation. I will show you both because I'm just a generous person like that. I want to show you all the math, dogs. All right, so I'm going to have from negative 5 to negative 1, meaning negative 5 is less than or equal to, right? It's got to be equal to x, which is less than or equal to negative 1. And I'm going to also have the positive 1 is less than or equal to x, less than or equal to 5. Notice that my inequalities are always pointing to the left when I write it as a compound inequality like that. But I can also do this with interval notation. So let's do that right now. Interval notation, we use the parentheses and the brackets. So I could do a bracket and then negative 5, comma, negative 1, close it with a bracket. Whoop, that was a weird bracket. Then I'm going to use a U, union, all right, U, and I'm going to do brackets again for the positive 1 to positive 5. Boom. Beautiful. There we have it, folks. That's awesome. We got 2 different ways of writing this thing right here. I'll go ahead and circle that too. 2 different ways. All right, we got our inequalities. We got our interval notation. Your pick, unless it specifies on a test, then you got to follow those directions. You know what I'm saying? Got to follow those directions to a T, but that's dope. That's awesome. I will see you guys on the flip side.